Hello, today I'm going to be presenting a auditory technique called auditory closure. So this technique is working on a child's ability to interpret communication and fill in any missing information. So for children with a hearing loss, it may be difficult to use language to fill in or infer information that is not explicitly shared. Auditory closure is a method that can help build on the child's inferencing abilities with language. So, auditory closure is going to help build those attention, turn taking skills, along with spontaneous speech and expressive language. An easy way to view and understand auditory closure is to see it as fill in the blanks. So, you can utilize a book, a song, or even a rhyme, and at the end of your sentence, you're going to leave out a word. And it's expected that the child will fill in the missing word. So, a very common example to help us understand is ready, set, go. So, when practicing auditory closure, we will say ready, set, and it is expected that the child will say go. Now, there are three general rules or steps that we're going to follow for auditory closure. The first is the phrase and missing word must be repetitive and familiar. So spend a few minutes reciting the song or phrase before engaging in auditory closure. And then when you feel the child is familiar with it, go ahead and try a sample sentence and leave out the word and see if they get it. The second rule is what we call an expectant look. So an expectant look is kind of like a nudge or with facial expressions. So it will look kind of like this. You'll kind of raise the eyebrows, tilt your head a little bit, perhaps slightly open your mouth as if you're going to say something. And this will bring an expectant look that the child will see and realize that you want them to speak. The third step / rule to auditory closure is to pause and give the child a few seconds to say the missing word. The child needs time to process and create their response. So although you may feel the urge to say it, give them just a few seconds to come up with what they will want to say. Now let's try an example. The first technique I'm going to use is with a book. So here I have the book, a printed copy of Brown Bear. And the reason I like Brown Bear is because it's very, very repetitive. Although the animals are changing, it follows this sample phrase of brown bear, what do you see? And that'll be the phrase that I'm going to familiarize the child with. And then once I feel that they understand the phrase, what do you see? And are able to recite it with me, I will then engage in auditory closure by leaving out the word see, and through auditory closure, it'll be expected that they will say it without hearing me say it first. So I say that we go through a few pages and we see a few animals, and I hear that they're repeating the phrase, what do you see? I'm then going to go to the next page and I'm going to say, brown bear, what do you? Give the child a few seconds and we'd hope that they would respond, see. And then we would give them verbal feedback saying, good job, it is what do you see? Now an example of this with a nursery song could be The Little Spider. So the itsy little bitty spider is a very common nursery rhyme, and you can use any type of familiar song that your child knows or that you've sung to them or that they're learning currently. So with the itsy bitsy spider, it goes, the itsy bitsy spider crawled up the water. And if the child's familiar with it, we'll expect them to say spout. The next phrase goes, down came the rain and washed the spider. And we'll expect them to say out. Now, in the case where your child is familiar but might not feel at ease to say the word, a modification that you can do is to cue them by giving the first sound of the missing word. So in the case of the book with Brown Bear, I might say, what do you? And after a second or so of noticing that they aren't recognizing the word, I could go, S. And hopefully that'll engage them to hear and know that it's see. and then they'll say the word see, and we'll give them some verbal feedback telling them, good job, it is the word see. And you can do the same thing for the nursery rhyme. Go ahead, and if the word is wash the spider, and then we'll expect them to say out. Now, in the case where the child gives the wrong response, and I'll change up the examples here, and I'll say, I see a, and I'm expecting them to say, I see a bear, but perhaps the child gets confused and says, I see a dog. We'll respond and we'll tell them, it does kind of look like a dog, but not quite. Can you try again? I see a b. And once they hear b, that'll be their cue to know it is a bear. So some suggestions for follow-up are to pay attention to the number of total words that the child is filling in throughout the whole song or book. If you notice that they're struggling and that they're missing quite a number of words, you may want to include some more modifications. But if there's an increase in the number of words that they're saying, then you can begin to decrease modifications and just give verbal responses like, that's not quite, try again, and always give the first phrase. So in the case of brown bear, I will always want to repeat, what do you? Give my expectant look, and they will hopefully respond, see. So just to go over again, auditory closure is kind of like the method of filling in the blanks. It is very great to help build the child's inferencing skills utilizing language. Our 3 rules to engage in an auditory closure is to first familiarize the child with the phrase, the book, whether it be a book or a song or a rhyme. Spend a few minutes reciting it before you leave out any words. Our second rule is to give the child an expectant look. And you can modify this however you want, but the point is that they see through your facial expressions, you are nudging them to say the missing word. And our third step is to pause and give the child a few seconds to say the missing word.